Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you with us here on Countdown to Restoration. We're counting down the horrible days of the dark Biden regime as we are on episode 44. That's right. Here it comes, episode 44. Yes, and I am your host who is trying to keep up with all that is going on in the world. Let's get that Senator Danny Thompson. Glad to have you with us. And, we've updated the beginning, the ending, and now this part. But we still are here to document the days, the dark days of the thief in chief. Okay, where are you, buddy? Where are you? We kind of redid some things. He might have got lost in the shuffle. We're going to hear about that tomorrow. I can tell you that. He's got a strict contract. So anyway, let's see. Nope. He's gone. He seems to be gone. Let's try one more time because it's my favorite part of the show. Having my buddy out. He is not going to be happy with me. Anyway, all right, we've got too much show to wait on him. So the thief in chief, we'll find our little blue-jacketed buddy later. Yeah, nobody, I don't know, he could be out eating a late dinner. We're running late today. Anyway, we start with our poster child or wannabe poster child for the Biden regime, Dr. Rachel Levine, whom, as you can probably tell just by looking, is not a woman. And so anyway, looks like a man to me, but we are still having some problems with some of our things that don't want to play. Now then, this student claims humans can't see gender differences. Let's listen to his claim. Now I can tell right off, she is a he. I don't know about you, but it looks pretty obvious to me.
We cannot fully identify a gender of a person right when we see them, so therefore I believe that it is not within my own individual liberty to gender that person. Okay.
Well, see, the fact is that person's already gendered. Now the new science is sex. Your biological sex does not determine gender. That's right. Because you have male parts does not mean that you are a female. So you cannot gender that person. Shania, why don't you want to come up and sing today? I tell you. And we have this commercial from Pantene that is just advocating child abuse. That's all that it is. Listen to this. It's a lesbian couple who have a transgender daughter, a boy acting like a girl.
Sawyer is an old soul. She is our spunky and creative kiddo. Sawyer also happens to be a transgender girl. I remember the first time she was out in the community wearing the clothing she wanted in her hair, and she kind of was herself. And that was the first day where I saw her. She has always been super gender creative, and hair has been a big part of her transition. Once she told us that she identified as a girl, she immediately wanted to grow her hair out.
It made me feel good and confident, and it made my insides match my outsides.
This was a kid who knew who she was from such a young age. And as a mom, you always worry about your kids being loved and accepted. So I'm always telling Sawyer to never hide who she is. Always be herself. Never be afraid to step out and exist as the person that she is.
Our family motto is everybody loves everybody no matter what path you follow. It means I can be who I am no matter what. It doesn't matter because everybody loves me. My advice is just be yourself and don't let anybody tell you who you are.
Brought to you from the makers of Pantene shampoos and conditioners, which they're selling hair products, so I guess, but you know, hair is important to little transgender boys who are girls. You know. See, they haven't even taught the kid right, because he said his outsides matched his insides. You know, it's just hair. Then nearly every young male I grew up with in the late 60s and 70s was a transgender female, because they all had long hair. And I didn't have long hair, not because my parents, I mean, it was a religious thing. You weren't supposed to have long hair. And so, but you know, come on. No, your insides still don't match your outsides. And guess what? Your insides are a little boy too. And I'm not picking on the child. It's his two, quote unquote, mother's fault. And what does he expect? What does anybody expect? Because this hits boys more than it does girls. I mean, and it affects girls. I'm not saying there aren't girls that think they're boys. Obviously, what's his name? Elliot Page. Used to be Ellen Page. Still is Ellen Page. I mean, come on, people. But see, society is tearing down men, and they're putting men like this in the forefront, and it affects little boys. I mean, look at it. In most homes, the woman's in charge, and especially if it's a single woman family, you know. But because society has shifted things. And men are supposed, you know, the woman is the one that has all the hard work. She's the one that has to do everything, etc., etc. And the male, and I'm not saying men shouldn't help. I'm not saying women don't have a voice. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying the way society has done this. We're pushing to have more women in leadership roles, which is, maybe it's fine, maybe it's not. Again, it's not my point. My point is, you're a little boy, and you see that everything's going to girls. Girls are getting, you know, all these special things. And especially in an all-female house. I mean, society's just changed. We're killing our kids. We're killing our kids. And then, who's going to take the place of the boys? Little girls. Well, what are we doing? What are we doing? And see, the Biden regime, just like the Obama regime. See, this wasn't the problem like this until Obama started bringing it up all the time. And now they're doing it. They're doing it. And this person is doing it. This person wants it done. This person is horrible. I mean, it's one thing, this next thing. I mean, this is just stupid. But what we're doing to little boys. Cataluna Enriquez, I don't know what his real name is, makes history as out trans pageant winner in Nevada. This is a beauty pageant on the road to the Miss Nevada USA pageant. And this guy won it. And he had a complaint. I mean, that once the pageant officials found out she is a he, they didn't treat her as nice as they did before. Well, how would you feel? You're a real woman in this pageant, and the guy beats you. This is worse than losing in a foot race. This is worse than being dunked on in basketball by a guy pretending to be a girl. I mean, now I remember one time, it's several years, it was way back. This guy got found out in a beauty pageant, and he was thrown out, and he was doing good till that point. Just couldn't get through the swimsuit competition. Anyway, and you know, but then they threw him out. Now he wins. I mean, if you're dating one of the pageants, one of the girls at this pageant, you probably got to look at them twice now. You couldn't beat a guy. I mean, ladies, again, this is stupid. What they're doing to kids is criminal. I mean, if you women want to let all this happen, then Hey, it's your life, right? If you want to let men take over and be more women than you are, whatever happened, I can fry up the bacon and bring it home and, what is it? Bring it home in a pan, I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan. Oh, well, I'm sure these guys sing it too. Anyway, it's just... And anti-trans sports bills sent to governors in Arkansas and Tennessee. And of course, the person protect trans youth. No, if you're going to have them and celebrate them, then have their own category. Have the Miss Trans pageants. Okay? Don't put them in with women, but because... Don't let boys play in girls' sports. Don't let men go in women's locker rooms. I mean, we're destroying our world. And we don't have that much left to hang on to. There are so many jokes I can make here, but I'm trying to keep this nice. Anyway, this is just sad. It's sad. And it's all part of them. They like this, Secular Democrats of America. You can read it in seculardems.org. They're fighting for this. This is what they want. Because, see, you take God out of it, then what you're... Because you're an accident anyway without God. We're just freaks of nature. See, animals, they're not freaks of nature. Humans are. We're freaks of nature. We didn't know enough to stay animals. And so whatever sex you are, it's irrelevant because you're a freaky accident anyway. Should have stayed in the pond. We were only supposed to go as far as apes who get vaccinations for COVID over humans. We were only supposed to go as far as them. But we freakishly advanced, and we can do all this stuff, and everything we do is harmful. Everything we do is bad. And so take God out of it, and this is where we're at. And so what does it matter what you're born as? What does it matter if we say men can be women and women can be men, and we just have this mixed up, crazy world? What does it matter? Because these people say there's no God, and we're supposed to have a government that pushes there being no God. They live for abortion. They live for these things. They live wanting the dark winter of the old Biden, of the Biden regime. I mean, it's just horrible. What's happening to our world? Arizona bill would ban abortions, charge abortionists with homicide for killing babies. Right now, it's just a bill. It's probably never, if it is a law, Supreme Court will strike it down quickly, even with a majority, because, they're afraid to touch these things. I mean, this is what we're doing. You might say, well, abortion's been around for a while. Yes, but ladies and gentlemen, it's being pushed like never before now because the last 4 years scared them. The last 4 years scared them. All this to take away our society, just to mess up the sexes. They're still working on the equality, not the Equality Act, but the Equal Rights Amendment. The courts had to say, the court said it had taken too long because another state, might have been Virginia, had finally ratified it, and Congress had to pass a law. They passed it in the House saying you can have more time on it. And you know what? It won't be an equal rights amendment for women. It will. They'll go back and they'll change it to include, LGBTQ plus. Women, why are you standing for this? Well, why don't you call and say something? Well, why don't women take to the streets and march and say, we are not men? And not let the trans in. Okay, if they want to be like that, fine, but you're not a woman. Oh, you're just narrow-minded and bigoted. No, I'm not narrow-minded. My mind works correctly. I have actual sense. A little boy is not a little girl. If he wants to play dress up, fine. That's your business. You want to, but he's not a girl. He's not a girl. Men should not win women's beauty pageants. Boys should not win in races against girls because they're pretending to be girls. If you want to have mixed track meets, fine. Have them. Let it be because boys win and then the girls. Just because you're a boy and you're a loser with the guys doesn't mean it's okay to be a winner with the girls. And somebody needs to teach their young men that in their home. Now, this I put on here because actually the other day I was thinking this. I was just like, my thought was, I wonder how many senior citizens are smoking pot, since pot seems to be taking over the world. And here it is, tons of old people are smoking weed and doctors are worried. You know why they're worried? Because pot does things to your brains and old people don't need that. Pot slows you down. Most old people do not need to be slowed down. Ask Joe Biden. Does he need to be slowed down? You're thinking, oh no, not Sleepy Joe, not old Uncle Joe. No, no, no. I mean, there's just nothing. Used to you could count on elderly citizens to be model citizens. And hey, wow, man, you know, being 70 is pretty cool. I don't know. What are we doing to ourselves? What are we doing to ourselves? I know this. We're messing ourselves up bad. Yellen and Powell praise stimulus, but warn that more needs to be done. They want more money spent. But guess what? They were talking to, testifying today before Congress, and stocks fall as Powell and Yellen testify and oil tumbles. Why? Because we're spending too much money and they're admitting, yeah, we see inflation peaking its little head up. But it won't be that much. No, we just keep spending trillions. We're killing our people. We're ruining everything. We've got the borders so open that the only people that can't get in are U.S. citizens without passports. We're doing all of this, and then we're ruining the economy. I mean, not one thing these people do is a help. Every time they open their mouth, it's a hurt. The U.S. unemployment system is plagued by $63 billion in fraud and dysfunction. $63 billion, which is nothing compared to $1.9 trillion. What does that matter? Huh? You know, we're at the place now where if it's under 100 billion, what does it even matter? Well, around 2 million people could face delays getting $300 federal unemployment benefits. Yeah, you know, except the ones defrauding the government for that money, and not even count the ones that can say, with my state unemployment and with this, I'm going to call my boss, tell him I can't go to work because I'm afraid of COVID. Yeah, that's in there. You can have a job that's open. You don't even have to look for a job if you're afraid of COVID. You can sit there off the taxpayers. Why wouldn't you? I mean, why not? Why does anybody care anymore? Just take what you can get. Biden administration not confident Johnson & Johnson will meet 20 million goal by end of the month. Now they're going to be behind on the vaccines. Probably blame it on Trump. I don't know. Why not? Let's blame it on Trump. Oh, remember the CDC, without any political interference, changed the distance for schools to be safe from 6 feet to 3 feet in between children. Well, the second largest teachers union is not convinced social distancing can safely be cut to 3 feet. And they have sent a letter to the White House saying, hey, hold on. We're teachers. We're not that dumb. We think y'all messed around and influenced the CDC. But again, I think really the White House is getting that the White House was nervous about schools not reopening. I don't think that impacted the CDC at all, just like it didn't impact the CDC on changing regulations at the border. Why? We're just suspiciously minded people. I know in the last administration, everything was political, but it can't be that now. Democrats have it. Honest old Uncle Joe, who's always going to give it to you straight from the shoulder. Yeah. Come on, he's going to keep the faith. Come on, teachers unions, he can't be lying to you. Come on. Man, just breaks your faith in people's trust. What did he say? We've got to learn to trust the government. Now, in the COVID relief bill, it expands the Affordable Care Act, but at a high price. So, not that money is a problem. Man, after shutting down for a year, how could we have a money problem? When Democrats pushed through a 2-year expansion of the Affordable Care Act and the COVID-19 relief bill, the American Rescue Plan, this month, many people celebrated the part that will make health insurance more affordable for more Americans. But some healthcare researchers consider this more a short-term fix for a long-term crisis, one that avoids confronting an uncomfortable truth. The only clear path to expanding health insurance remains yet more government subsidies for commercial health plans, which are the most costly form of coverage, and turning out to be the least effective too because of all the deductibles, etc., etc. The ACA's reliance on private plans, a hard-fought compromise in the 2010 health law that was designed to win over industry. In other words, they wanted single payer, but they did this, already cost taxpayers tens of billions of dollars each year as the federal government picks up a share of the insurance premiums for about 9 million Americans. The price tag will now rise higher because of the recently enacted $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. The legislation will direct some $20 billion more to insurance companies by making larger premium subsidies available to consumers who buy qualified plans. All right. I think my numbering is off. By next year, taxpayers will shell out more than $8,500 for every American who gets a subsidized health plan through insurance marketplaces created by the ACA, often called Obamacare. That's up an estimated 40% from the cost of the marketplace subsidies in 2020. 40? Why? Due to the augmented aid, data from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office indicates. Supporters of the aid package, known as the American Rescue Plan, argue the federal government had to move quickly to help people struggling during the pandemic. So, we've got to help these people. Have 2 number 3s here. Well, that shouldn't be happening. This is exactly why we pay taxes. Yeah, that's why. We want the federal government to be there when we need it most, said Mila Kaufman, who runs the District of Columbia's insurance marketplace. Of course, she thinks that. She's getting paid by your taxes. Kaufman said the middle of the pandemic was not a time to wait for the perfect solution. But the large new government commitment underscores the disparity between the high price of private health insurance and lower cost government plans such as Medicare and Medicaid, which is going to lead us all to Medicaid and Medicare. The half-century-old government safety net insures about 13 million low-income Medicaid working-age adults who gained eligibility for the program through the health law and make too little to qualify for subsidized commercial insurance. Medicaid coverage is still costly, about $7,000 per person every year, federal data indicates, but that's about 18% less than what the government will pay to cover people through commercial health plans. So, what they want you to see and what people will start seeing is, hey, put everybody on Medicaid. See, a government plan, it's cheaper. It's cheaper. Of course, they don't tell you all the nuts and bolts about how it all works and the limiting of this and that, do they? No, because it's got to all be hidden. So that's just part of it. Now, as we continue on, things happening, it's just kind of a little bit of everything show today. White House yanks interior nominee after Murkowski opposition. The senator from Alaska did not like the deputy secretary nominee. The White House hath withdrawn its nomination of Elizabeth Klein to become the Interior Department's deputy secretary as the Biden administration faced pushback from Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski. Sources familiar with the situation said, basically, Ms. Klein wants us to be off of, gas and oil like everybody in the Biden regime. And she would have a lot of power over Alaska that makes a lot of money from gas and oil. So the senator wants to open up more land. She wanted to close more land. So I ain't voting for her. And so there you go. You know who has the power now, which is why we put that up, because I don't think that many people care that much. Oh, we're not ready for you yet. Don't show up yet. Where are we? We're right here. All right. California's senators asked Biden to ban sale of gas-powered cars, just like California did. There's a date in California you can no longer buy a gas-powered car. Senators are pushing the Biden administration to set a date after which automakers would no longer be allowed to sell gasoline-powered cars anywhere in the United States. The letter sent Monday by Sens Dianne Feinstein and Alex Padilla to President Joseph Biden urges him to follow California's lead and set a date by which all new cars and passenger trucks sold be zero-emission vehicles. I can tell you what you do. Go out and buy a farm right now, and then it won't be a passenger truck. It'll be a work truck. But you're going to have they're going to decide. I mean, you better get at least 5 acres, plow a little bit, have a cow or two on it, and then you can have a good old diesel dually and drive past everybody's little electric cars going down the highway. Hey, people, that's what people wanted. You get your $1,400 check, and here, this cartoon is so mean I had to show it. It is President Biden using, one of those stair lifts to go up the stairway to Air Force One. That's mean, and we shouldn't be picking on the poor elderly people that have to use this to get up the stairs in their house. Anyway, I doubt he's going to do that, but you never know. You never know. What else as we try to move on quickly because we have so much. Washington Post reporter calls out Biden for lack of Asian Americans in executive cabinet positions. Now, it's important because we're trying not to discriminate against Asian Americans. And I actually have this, some of these things, so I get information the night before and then the next day it shows up in the news. A lot of people are upset that there's no high-level Asian American, especially Asian American women. I guess Joe just thinks they all got killed in Atlanta. I don't know. I don't know what happened. A Washington Post reporter drew liberal criticism Monday after she called out President Biden for having no Asian Americans among his executive-level cabinet secretaries. Ooh, yeah. Just kind of having a problem here, aren't we? See, not everything's rosy in the Biden world. Now look at this, though. See, it's not enough that we're having to spend, we don't know how much money on the border. It's not enough that we're having to spend all this money on everything that we don't have. We are entering into an agreement with small and less populous island economies. This is the SALPI, Small and Less Populous Island Economy Initiative. And this is, I'll just kind of tell you, this is the whole purpose for the Biden regime. And you say, oh, what? The people that orchestrate, and I know that's a conspiracy theory. If you don't think there's people kind of guiding world leaders to do this and that, you're out of your mind. See how the way they look at the U.S. is to be the world's policeman and to be the world's bank. We're supposed to take care of all these small nations and bring them to where they want to be with our U.S. dollar. All right? China and Russia, they sometimes work counter all this. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. So very sorry. They sometimes work counter to this, but the U.S. is here to block them and to help every little country and to try to bring them into the modern world, but in a climate-friendly way. Because what are we supposed to be doing here? We're supposed to be helping them economically to get over climate damage, to bring them into climate submission, I guess, promote economic recovery, respond to climate crisis, and advance longer-term shared interests. Now, these are islands that they don't even qualify for U.S. aid because the people on them have higher per capita incomes. But no. We're going to help them. Why? To bring them under our climate controls, or they wouldn't do it. See, that's why we exist to these outside influences in our country. That's why they want the border overran, because we've had too much for too long. We've tried to help all these South American countries for how long? Central America, South America? How much money have we poured into Mexico, the Central American states, South American? How much money have we spent on? You can't change these countries. So they seek change through migration here and migration there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're being overrun. We're being overdone. We're overspending. We can't do this and still remain viable in the world, but that's okay. You know, they don't care if they ruin us, because the people overall, their heart is in Europe. It's not here. We're just functional. We're just here for a purpose. All right? Speaking of being the world's policeman, we had this question yesterday.
Thank you.
As a sort of amorphously pointing.
Will Secretary Austin brief the president on his trip? And secondly, the Taliban has threatened the U.S. Unspecifically about some sort of action if the U.S. does not meet the May 1st deadline. So what is the president's plan for that?
The secretary sees the president several times a week as a part of the PDB. Obviously, we don't preview what topics are discussed, but I'm certain he will discuss his trip with him, given he was in Afghanistan just over the weekend. In terms of the May 1st timeline, the president spoke to this during his interview last week with ABC, where he conveyed it would be tough, but there are ongoing policy discussions and decisions right now, and I don't have anything to preview for you on that front.
Now, we have been in Afghanistan for around 20 years, give or take an hour. We were there initially to do what? Stop them from training terrorists to attack us with. And what did we? We stayed there to build a new nation, which still isn't built. The Taliban's not eradicated. We're bargaining with them. Just get out. If anything starts happening, just go bomb them. Do whatever. But get out. But no, see, Biden's like, oh, we're looking at that. Yeah, because we're supposed to be there for whatever reason. We're supposed to spend our money in people. Got all these things going on in the Biden regime. It's just... Russia's top diplomat starts China visit with call to reduce U.S. dollar usage. They do not want the dollar to be the the trading currency of the world. Just slipped my mind what it's called. But they want to take the dollar off at, especially in oil. Russia wants the dollar off of trade. That's what you spend. You have to buy oil in dollars. That's what it's based on. The exchange currency of the world. And so if you do that, the dollar crashes. China may be taking rebranded Iranian oil amid increased scrutiny. Duh. Huh? How's Iran getting their money? China doesn't care. Come on. But all that takes us down to where? Make a run for the border. This from yesterday, which I think is very relevant still today. Here we go.
Okay, 2 years ago, President Biden said, we're a nation that says you want to flee and you're fleeing opposition, you should come. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. Now he says, I can say quite clearly, don't come over. So why was his position different campaigning than it is governing?
Well, I think that sometimes there's language that is used by some that is not including the full context of his comments. I will say that he still believes that he wants our country to be a place where there is asylum processing at the border, where people are considered and go through a proper process, who are fleeing prosecution, who should be considered for immigration status. That is a process that is broken. It was broken by the last administration, and he wants to put in place a process through an immigration bill, through steps taken by our Department of Homeland Security and HHS to improve that process and make it safe, efficient, and effective. We're going to need some time to do that.
See, again, you can't say don't come and then talk like that. And they know that. See, what everybody hears is this.
Angela Fuentes, come on down. Angela Fuentes, come on down.
That's what they hear. No matter how much they talk, that's what they hear. I mean, illegal immigration surge pops Biden's popularity. 67% say it's a crisis. I asked my wife today, why don't they just admit it's a crisis? Everybody's calling it one. What are they gaining by not doing that? I don't even understand their thinking. Why not? Yeah, it's a crisis. We're handling it. Already, 2 border Democrats won't seek re-election in 2022 amid border crisis, and they also say redistricting, but they don't want to stand up and answer to that. Biden brings back family separation, we're not doing it. We're sending them back to Mexico, where they're separating, because you don't know what kids belong to who. These families just give them to whoever. Kids are wandering around, and adults pick them up and say, oh, we'll help you. It's a mess. Read some of the articles. I've got them, but I'd have to do a whole week just on what's happening with these kids. If we have time, I've got one today. I mean, it's heartbreaking, and we're not helping, ladies and gentlemen. We're now part of the problem. We are the problem. You probably heard about this. Vice President Harris laughs when asked if she has plans to visit the southern border. Said, oh, no, I'm and then laughs about it and then says, I've been there. I'll probably go back again. Now, this is bad, because this woman is as Democrat as it gets. The Epoch Times Representative Sheila Jackson Lee says Biden border plan does not look like it's working at this time. She is important in the Democratic caucus, always has been, and she's not happy. Democrat Representative Cuellar says migrants being released in the U.S. without notices to appear in court. Again, we covered this yesterday, but now you got the Democrats confirming it. You know, people, this is just, you've got to call and make your voice heard. Border age, this from the New York Post, not just Fox. See, everybody's, a lot of people, if Fox says it. No, you've got a Democratic congressman saying it, and now you got the New York Post, border agents releasing asylum-seeking migrants into U.S. without court date. They're not even going to, they're just saying, hey, come back, figure it out however you can. All right? Biden administration spends millions per day to halt border wall construction. Yeah, it's not saving anything. It's costing money, and they ain't even made a decision on it. That's right. Taxpayers are coughing up about $6 million per day for the construction of the southern border wall to sit idle. That's over 60 days. It's $6 million a day. 60 days times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. It's a lot of money. President Biden's 60-day pause on border construction contracts didn't stop federal money from flowing to the border wall. Senior Department of Homeland Security told Breitbart contractors are instead paid for rental expenses or cost of ownership while their equipment sits idle, costing the government $6 million per day. $6 million per day as a deadline looms for the Biden administration to decide which projects will continue. And we're on pace to have a record onslaught of illegals. We are having it. Migrant crisis forces Arizona border town to declare a state of emergency. Remember Gila Bend? We were talking about it just, was it Thursday or Friday? Yeah. Gila Bend, Arizona Mayor Chris Riggs says he is declaring a state of emergency due to the ongoing border crisis, blaming the Biden regime for sending migrants to his town by bus. Yeah, just dropping them off. Okay, figure it out. They don't have money to feed them or anything. And yes, we have what?
I got unaccompanied minors!
Is this some kind of prison?
Yes, little girl, it is. Not funny, though. I mean, we try to put some kind of humor on it all. Well, let's see. This today, they didn't have a press briefing. They had a press gaggle on board Air Force One. This question, we're not sure who from. Is there any consideration? It could be from any reporter there. They all have the same question. Is there any consideration to changing the policy related to unaccompanied minors at the border, given the numbers that are now in U.S. custody and how this situation has evolved, to try to change the messaging about those children being received and kept in the United States? In other words, we got to stop this. Well, I think the messaging will continue to be that. It is not the time to come. It is not a safe journey to make. That we are turning away people at the border. A majority of people are turned away at the border, but at the same time, we believe that it is the humane and moral step to ensure we are treating these children, that they are in a safe place when they come across the border. I'm not sure if you're asking about, but do you acknowledge that by making the point about the humane treatment of children, let's get to number 2 here. Sorry about that. Humane treatment of children, that there is perhaps to the ears of a desperate parent a motivation because the child would be received and kept across the border. So does that require a change? I don't think our view is that there are a number of factors here that are pushing. I think our view is that there are a number of factors here that are pushing families to put their children on buses or to make the journey, including the economic conditions, including crime and corruption, including the 2 hurricanes that struck the region. Those are factors that our experts feel are driving factors to children making that journey, and the step we can take and that we can do, we have. Control over taking, of course, is ensuring that we are expediting the process at the border. We're opening new facilities. We just opened another one in Texas. There will be additional facilities that are opened in the coming days and weeks, ensuring that we can get the kids moved as quickly as possible from Border Patrol facilities. I mean, they don't expect it to end. It's never going to end. Jim, the pandemic emergency rule is still in place for single adults and families. Yep, Title 42. She answers like that when she's not happy. Recent data has actually shown that despite Title 42, there is an increase in families being accepted into the U.S. Yep. She's not denying it. Is that just due to, a breakdown in coordination with Mexican authorities who are supposed to receive those families, or is the U.S. leaning towards accepting more families at this time? It is. It is largely an issue of Mexico not having the capacity to accept some families. These circumstances are limited. When they come, they are tested, they are quarantined as needed, but it is not a reflection or prediction of a change of policy. But it's happening. It doesn't matter if it is policy or not. It is happening. My policy might be that I don't like to drive under a full tank of gas, but if I do it, it doesn't matter what my policy is. It's what I'm doing. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, what? See, this is who is driving everything. And then the pandemic emergency rule is in its essence temporary. I mean, it's rooted in the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah. So what's the plan for the So what's the plan for when the administration needs to lift that? And when is the administration going to lift it? I expect that decision will be made with our health team and in the lead and in coordination between the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Homeland Security. Gotcha. But is there any consideration of another restriction, another rule that would be implemented for when Title 42 is lifted? I don't think we're at that point. Obviously, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. 1,400 people are still dying in our country every day. So I don't think we are at that point in the process. Okay. And we're going to replace them with migrants. Every day, 1,400 people, every day we're letting 1,400 in. Why not? It makes as much sense as anything else. That might be what they're doing. They're just not saying. Every day when 1,400 people, and we got to catch up, we lost 500,000 to COVID. Let's bring in 500,000, and every day, as long as we're dying, we're bringing in migrants. Why not? I mean, it makes as much sense as anything else. I may have hit the whole plan. Yeah, you're laughing right now. I may have hit the whole plan. We have this from ABC News. They're showing the conditions inside of the Border Patrol place in Donna, Texas.
Now to our ABC News exclusive on the crisis at the border. Our first look at video inside one of the facilities that has been overwhelmed by the surge in migrants. Our chief White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega, is outside that facility. It's in Donna, Texas. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hi, Robin. Good morning to you. Yeah, we were out late last night talking to migrants who just crossed. We talked to young children, 2 boys, 7 and 9 years old. They are traveling by themselves. And there are so many children just like them who will likely end up in facilities just like this one behind me, severely overcrowded, no place for a child. Inside this tent facility on the southern border, so many children, they are sleeping on floors, side by side, huddled under foil blankets. The Biden administration refusing to allow journalists in to see for themselves, sources providing this first look. This video shot by Customs and Border Protection last week, obtained exclusively by ABC News. Only 250 people are supposed to be held here. Instead, there are close to 4,000. Some families, mostly unaccompanied minors, traveling alone, from teenage boys to infants. Here, toddlers in a playpen being watched by a caretaker. The kids made the treacherous journey all the way from Central America, hoping to claim asylum. Inside, they get medical checks. They line up one by one for food. This video showing girls at a center in El Paso exercising outside. But this is no place for children, crammed into pods, one pod housing more than 400 boys. The White House says they're working as quickly as possible to move these kids into shelters and homes, calling in FEMA for help. But under fire from critics who say they didn't do enough to plan for the surge after overturning many of Trump's hardline immigration policies, the administration still refuses to call the situation a crisis.
Well, children presenting at our border who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing prosecution, who are fleeing terrible situations is not a crisis.
At the border, we're with authorities on patrol, and the children just keep coming. This family telling me they've been traveling for more than a month, walking most of the way.
Cansado, ¿verdad? No?
He tells me he's not tired. He says he's ready to keep walking.
¿Listo para caminar más? ¿Sí?
And just up the road, an even larger group. In it, these 2 boys, 9 and 10 years old, both traveling alone, walking for more than a month. The group has taken them in, promising to keep them safe. The boys show me phone numbers of family members in the U.S. they soon hope to find. One written on a hat.
This is his grandfather's phone number.
The other written inside his pocket.
It's right here in his pants. ¿Tienen miedo?
I ask, are you scared? Yes, they tell me, very. They are scared and they are hungry. The Border Patrol takes them into custody after we met them. They got brought to a place like this facility here behind me. We are seeing so many kids being housed in these facilities way past the 3 days that they are legally allowed to be here. After a place like this, they get put into a more child-friendly location, like a shelter or a foster care system where the government tries to reunite them with their family. That can take up to a month, sometimes over a month. This is a really complicated process. Robin, I will never forget, I can tell you, I'll never forget the faces of those little boys.
I know that you won't. Thank you.
You know, makes me think of my grandkids. They're 11, 8, and 6. Just, what are... I've got an article here, and I'm trying, that's why I'm trying to move fast. I'm trying to not talk. Girl's solo journey to U.S. border shows risk parents take. Well, I think it's the risk the kids take. By the Associated Press, Adriana Gomez Licon, I don't know. The Honduran girl, 7 years old and surrounded by strangers in the pre-dawn darkness, was determined to keep pace with the other migrants headed for the U.S. border. Her father, she told us, told an Associated Press journalist, had traveled with her by bus for 22 days across Mexico. So her journey's not even that bad. And then he went back to their homeland, but not before he placed her in the hands of a young man who was to help her cross the river into Texas. What? Now he's going back because they'll call him, or she's got a phone number, some relative here in the U.S., and if he wants to come here to get her, they'll bring him and the rest of the family here. And you know, like I said, this girl's journey is easy compared to others, and maybe I should have got that one. I don't know. I mean, there's so many stories, but this is heartbreaking enough, and she rode on the bus all my way. He just said to go on my own and take care of myself, she said. That man, if he was in the U.S., he would be arrested for child endangerment and abandonment. What happened to the man who was to be her guide is unclear, but the ponytail girl met up with a group and pressed on, vigorously swinging her arms to keep up as they trekked north through the Rio Grande Valley on Sunday under a half moon. Temperatures had dipped into the mid-50s. The girl wore a yellow jacket decorated with a cartoonish drawing of trains and a black mask to protect her from COVID-19. The AP is not using the girl's name. It does not normally name children without permission from their parents who left her, and the identity of her father could not be obtained. But her journey illustrates the extraordinary risk taken by migrant parents to get their children across the border, even if it means abandoning them for the most perilous part of the trip. These desperate decisions represent a dilemma for the fledgling administration, a dilemma of President pretend Joe Biden as it attempts to restore an orderly asylum system. She's not seeking asylum. They just want out. They want out of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, wherever they're at. Fleeing prosecution. Hopefully the little girl's not fleeing prosecution. In trying to adopt a more humane approach to protect minors traveling alone, more children may be put at risk. Really? You think? Nearly 4,500 migrant children arrived at the border in February. I think it's 9,500, up 60% from a month earlier. The government is rushing to set up more facilities to house them and speeding up the process to place them with relatives in the U.S. The city and county of San Diego said Monday that its downtown convention center would host migrant children for an average of 30 to 35 days. Single adults are almost always expelled, while families are sometimes expelled. See, they're telling us mostly, but now it's just sometimes. Sometimes expelled and sometimes allowed to remain in the United States to pursue asylum. I have another article that says the mysterious policies, border policies, why some families get in, some don't. Nobody knows, and they're not telling. The girl did reach the United States. A fellow Honduran migrant, 25-year-old Fernanda Solis, said she found her crying alone on a dirt path north of the Rio Grande after midnight as a helicopter hovered overhead and border agents addressed migrants through a loudspeaker, telling them what to do and what not to do. And Solis tried to comfort the girl, who was cold, hungry, and thirsty. She told her they could walk together to turn themselves over to Border Patrol agents and seek asylum. That dad should be horsewhipped. The girl gained confidence as she walked a route commonly used by Central American migrants. She answered questions unhesitatingly. She turns 8 next month. She should be going into 3rd grade, though she did not complete 2nd because of the pandemic. She pressed ahead to a country where she knows no one but a family member in South Carolina. That's how she acts. She is brave, Solis said. The girl said her father had no more money to cross the border with her. He lost his job, she said simply. Solis said she was able to gather that the girl's father had recently tried to cross with her, but they were both quickly expelled back to Reynosa, wherever, Mexico, under pandemic rules, the one that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I don't know. It's just... Oh, this is where we're at. Related, but they were both quickly expelled back to Reynosa, Mexico. Under pandemic-related powers the Trump administration invoked, Biden has kept the powers known as Title 42 before the section of an obscure public health law in place. The girl told me they had tried to cross together, but they were returned. This time, he just sent the girl for her to turn herself in. A federal judge halted expulsions of unaccompanied children in November after the Trump administration had turned back at least 8,800. But an appeals court panel of 3 Trump-appointed judges ruled in January that they could resume. Biden, in a break with Trump, decided to release children to relatives with notices to appear in immigration courts. The Honduran girl turned herself over to Customs and Border Protection. The agency did not respond to a request for information about her whereabouts. Her story is being repeated again and again along the border. On Sunday, a Salvadoran man approached a journalist to ask her whereabouts. Her story is being repeated again. A Salvadoran man approached a journalist to ask whether his 13-year-old daughter would qualify to stay if she crossed on her own. Parents are saying, we are not going to make it. We have to be very realistic here. But if I send my child up to the bridge and they cross alone, they'll have to take them in. I mean... You see, there's a point you got to say, no more kids, because we're putting them in danger. We've got to stop this. And there's a worse article. Yeah, that's bad enough. Little boy, his grandmother came out and said, oh, tomorrow you're going to America. Who am I going with? Your 17-year-old uncle. I'll have that one tomorrow. It's just, ladies and gentlemen, what are we doing? As we are 10 victims of Boulder King super shooting, identified those killed range in age from 25 to 65. We're just having to go all over the place. This is who did it. The alleged gunman who was caught shooting people, Ahmed I said it in rehearsal. Ahmed Al-Awal Alisa, something like that. He's from he's Syrian and lives in a town next to Boulder, not far from it, Arvada. A very nice town, very nice area, and we don't have time to get into everything with that. Oh goodness, they're planning. I told you yesterday they were already planning executive action on gun control. Here it is. Biden obviously is urging Congress to push ahead with everything they can on gun control, etc., etc. And we don't know why. We don't know the motivation, but you know. All right, it's God formation time. Don't even have time for fireworks. All right, a call has come to the Biden regime to begin to ignore the border situation, not even respond to as much as they can. But of course, they're stuck because that's all everybody wants to talk about because it's horrible. and to target areas, which I have a slide, but I didn't have time for it. Biden, of course, is working on upping legal immigration and to start trying to get legal immigration into the news to break, just to get people to ignore the border. I don't know how the ABC News is on it, for crying out loud. The regime is having a hard time to let the border go. About half of the people in the regime, of the administration, they want to start turning children away, but they keep it to themselves because they don't want to speak it out and get into trouble. Women, we already saw that Asian Americans are not very well represented in the White House, at least in senior levels, not at all, really. Women are starting to feel like, starting to feel like they're just there to be seen, even though they have a lot of prominent women, but there are those that really lead and those that are just there, for status symbols. And they are not really allowed to make the decisions they think they should make. And so they are very upset, and color is by and large a just for show. Again, there's people of color doing things, but most of the people they don't get to make decisions. See, you're stuck on committees, you're stuck doing all this, and they have all these people to look good to the American public, but they don't really get to do what they think they should do. Asians are the least represented minority and feel like they are mistreated. Gays, now the gays in the administration, they know they're there for show, and they don't mind because, hey, that's what they do. It's getting the point across. But women, a lot of women getting upset the way they're being treated. International issues are starting to close in as they realize that they have no handle on China and Russia or Iran. They thought that they would pick up where Obama left off, but they are seen as predictable, immature, and romantics or idealists about the true state of the world. And also Asia and the Middle East are in great peril, and the nations know this, and they expect the rest of the world. They're very afraid of China and Iran, and the Middle East very afraid of China and Iran, and they really won't help, but they expect to struggle. Africa feels left out and is looking for help, but we got the border that's taking all the time, all the information. So much going on, ladies and gentlemen, so much to tell you, and we just keep going over. Anyway, thanks for watching us here on Countdown to Restoration. We're glad you could show up. I said we're trying to get our process a little better, and hopefully we can, in the coming days, by the end of the week, have everything running smooth again. But anyway, thanks for sticking with us. Tell somebody about the show. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.